As a young doctor, you trust your mentors. I followed orders even when something felt off. One mistake led to a patient dying. My boss blamed me, and I became the scapegoat in a system designed to protect itself. My name is Michael. I was 27 when everything changed. I had just finished my residency and landed my first real job as a doctor in a big city hospital. Like most young doctors, I was full of hope and determination. I wanted to help people, to make a difference. I trusted my mentors, the experienced doctors who had been through it all. I believed they had my back. In those early days, every shift felt like a test. Long hours, tough decisions, and the pressure to prove myself. I worked hard, stayed late, asked questions and followed orders. Sometimes I felt overwhelmed, but I pushed through. Because that's what you do when you're new. You listen. You learn. I thought I was on the right path. But then something happened. Something no one warns you about. One mistake, one moment, turned everything upside down. Suddenly, I wasn't the eager young doctor anymore. I became the scapegoat for something much bigger. Looking back, I realize now how much I trusted people who didn't deserve it, how the system is designed to protect itself, even if it means sacrificing someone like me. But at the time, all I saw was my job, my responsibility, and the hope that doing the right thing would be enough. This is my story. Working in a hospital is nothing like what you see on TV. It's not just saving lives or dramatic moments. It's long shifts filled with endless tasks, constant pressure, and a chain of command you don't question, and because if you do, you risk everything. From the moment I stepped into that hospital, I knew who was in charge. My boss. He was the one everyone listened to, the one who made the decisions, the one with the power. People respected him, even feared him. He had been there for years and seemed untouchable. You learn quickly that in a place like that, obedience isn't optional. You follow orders, even if something doesn't sit right with you. You don't ask too many questions, you keep your head down and trust that those above you know best. I thought that was how it was supposed to be. I thought my job was to learn from them, to absorb everything, to do exactly what I was told. I never imagined I would be caught in something that would break all that trust, or that the people I looked up to would turn on me so fast. At that time, I was just trying to survive, trying to prove I belonged. But little did I know that hospital, that system, was far more complicated and dangerous than I ever could have imagined. There were moments early on when something didn't feel right, but I brushed them off. You learn to ignore those little doubts, especially when you're new and eager to prove yourself. Maybe it was a feeling in the pit of my stomach, or a hesitation before following an order. But you tell yourself it's just nerves, or that you don't know enough yet to question things. Sometimes my boss would give instructions that seemed rushed or a bit off, but he was the one with experience. I didn't want to be the one to second-guess him. I thought maybe I was overthinking it. After all, he was the one responsible for so many lives, right? I remember one case where the patient wasn't responding as expected, and I asked for extra tests. My boss told me no, that it wasn't necessary and we had to move quickly. I didn't argue, I followed his lead, even though part of me felt uneasy. That's the thing about trust in a hospital, especially as a young doctor. It's built on relying on those above you to know what's best. You don't want to be seen as difficult or inexperienced, so you swallow your doubts and keep going, hoping that everything will be okay. But deep down I knew something was off, and I would soon find out just how dangerous it could be to trust blindly. It started with a patient, someone we were supposed to save. I remember walking into that room, feeling the weight of responsibility like never before. The patient was serious but stable enough, or so I thought. The plan was clear, the orders were set. I was to follow through exactly as instructed. Every step felt important. Monitoring vital signs, administering medications, keeping a close eye on changes. I wanted to do everything right. I was still new, still learning, but I was determined. The patient's life depended on it. But the situation wasn't simple. There were so many moving parts. Other doctors, nurses, tests coming in and out. It felt like a balancing act, and I was trying not to drop anything. Sometimes the orders came fast and without explanation, and I just had to keep up. I trusted my boss completely. If he said this was the right course of action, then I believed it. I didn't realize then how much was riding on decisions I didn't fully understand. How much would go wrong in just a few hours. That patient was the turning point. The moment when everything I thought I knew collided with a reality I wasn't prepared for. And it all started with a single case, one I wish I could go back and change. Then it happened. The moment no one wants but everyone fears. The patient's condition took a sudden turn for the worse. I was there, trying to stay calm, doing everything I was taught to do. But things spiraled fast, faster than I could keep up with. I called for help, followed protocols, administered treatments. Every step I took was with the hope that I could save them. But despite everything, the patient's vital signs kept dropping. The room filled with tension, urgency, and every voice around me. I kept asking myself what I missed. Was there something I didn't see? Did I do something wrong? The questions hit me harder than the beeping machines. I was trying to hold it together, but inside, panic was creeping in. When the patient finally passed, the silence felt heavy, crushing. I remember feeling numb, frozen in place. How could this happen? I had done what I was told. I had done my best. But deep down, I knew that this moment was going to change everything, not just for the patient, but for me. Because in that room, something broke, and it wasn't just a life. It was the trust I had in everything I thought I knew. Right after it happened, everything became a blur. Instead of support or answers, I felt eyes on me, accusing, judging. My boss was quick to point fingers, making it clear that I was the one responsible. I was stunned. I kept thinking, how can this be happening? I had followed every order, every instruction. The hospital wanted to protect itself, its reputation, and they needed someone to take the fall. I was the easiest target, the new doctor, the one without power or allies. Suddenly, all the trust I had put in the system felt like a trap closing in on me. I tried to explain what had happened, to share what I knew, but my words fell on deaf ears. The higher-ups were already making decisions behind closed doors, crafting a story that made me look like the one who caused the tragedy. In that moment, I realized something harsh. In this world, loyalty can be a weapon, and blame can be handed out like a punishment. I wasn't just a doctor anymore. I was a scapegoat, and the fight to clear my name was just beginning. After the patient died, things changed faster than I could keep up with. Instead of answers or support, I was told to stay quiet. My boss made it clear that the story we told had to protect the hospital. No questions, no doubts. I felt like I was being pushed into a corner, expected to agree with whatever they decided. Reports were rewritten, facts shifted, and I was left out of the conversation. The truth didn't matter anymore. What mattered was keeping the hospital's name clean. I was told to sign documents I hadn't even read, to say things I didn't believe. Every day, the pressure grew. Colleagues stopped talking to me, and I started feeling more alone. I wanted to speak up, to tell the real story, but the fear was everywhere. Fear of losing my license, my job, my future. I realized then that this wasn't just about one mistake. It was about a system built to protect itself at any cost, even if it meant destroying someone like me. And the hardest part was knowing that most people wouldn't stand with me, because that's how deep the silence runs. Once the blame was placed on me, everything I had worked for started slipping away. Investigations began, but it felt like they were only looking for someone to punish, not to find the truth. I was questioned over and over, but no one seemed interested in hearing what really happened. My medical license was put on hold, my reputation took a hit, and doors I thought would be open forever started closing. I felt like I was drowning, struggling to catch my breath in a world that had turned against me. I kept thinking about the patient, what I could have done differently, if anything, but the real pain came from knowing that the system I trusted was working against me. The people who should have supported me were instead making sure I paid the price. It was a lonely and confusing time. Every step forward felt like 2 steps back. I wanted to keep fighting, but I wasn't sure how. All I knew was that my career and my life would never be the same. I thought if I spoke out, if I told the truth, someone would listen, but it wasn't that simple. Every time I tried to explain what really happened, doors slammed shut. People who I thought would understand turned away. My boss warned me to stay quiet. Others said it wasn't worth the trouble. I reached out to hospital leaders, to colleagues, even to the press, hoping to find justice, or at least some fairness. Instead, I found threats and silence. Whispers behind my back, questions about my competence, and a growing sense that I was being erased. The harder I fought, the more they pushed back. It felt like the whole system was working against me, like I was a problem they wanted to disappear. I was left wondering if speaking the truth was worth losing everything, my career, my dignity, my future. But despite it all, a small part of me held on to hope. Hope that someday someone would hear me, that the truth would come out, that I could find a way to keep going even when it felt like the world had turned its back. After everything that happened, finding work became almost impossible. I sent out resumes, went to interviews, but the moment they heard about what happened, the doors closed. It felt like I was being blacklisted, not just by one hospital, but by the entire medical community. I wasn't just unemployed, I was invisible. No one wanted to take a chance on someone tied to a scandal, even if the truth was different. The weight of the mistake, or at least the blame, followed me everywhere. I had spent years building my career, dreaming of helping people, and suddenly it was all gone. Bills piled up, friends drifted away. I started questioning everything, my choices, my future, even who I was. It was a hard, lonely road, but even in the darkest moments I couldn't let go of the hope that somehow I could rebuild, that this wasn't the end of my story, that maybe, just maybe, there was a way back. I tried to lean on the people closest to me, my family, a few friends who stayed, but even that wasn't easy. Some didn't fully understand what I was going through, or they thought I was to blame. Others just didn't know how to help. There were moments when I felt completely alone, like I was carrying this weight no one else could see. The silence around me was deafening. I wanted to talk, to share my story, but the fear of being judged kept me quiet. At the same time, I found small pockets of support. People who had been through similar situations, who knew what it meant to be pushed down by a system that protects itself. Their stories reminded me I wasn't alone, that this was bigger than just me. But even with that support, the loneliness never fully went away. The damage wasn't just to my career, it was to my sense of self. I had to find a way to survive, to keep fighting, even when it felt like the whole world had turned its back on me. It wasn't just my story. This was happening all over the place. I started hearing from other doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers who had been silenced, blamed, or pushed out for speaking up. The system wasn't built to protect patients or the people doing the work. It was built to protect itself. There's a culture in hospitals that keeps mistakes hidden, that rewards loyalty over truth. When something goes wrong, someone has to take the fall. Too often it's the youngest or the newest, the ones who don't have power or connections. I realized my story wasn't just about me, it was part of a bigger problem, a broken system where fear and silence rule. And if nothing changes, others will keep suffering the same way I did. That's why I decided I couldn't stay quiet, not just for me, but for everyone who gets caught in this web, because if the truth doesn't come out, nothing will ever get better. I decided to fight back even though I knew it wouldn't be easy. I began gathering everything, emails, messages, notes, anything that could show what really happened. I reached out to lawyers, to advocacy groups, and to anyone who would listen. It was exhausting, frustrating, and sometimes heartbreaking. Every step forward felt like climbing a mountain, but I kept going because I knew the alternative was giving up. I couldn't let this be the end of my story. I started speaking out, sharing my experience publicly, hoping to shed light on what happens behind the scenes. It was scary, and I faced backlash, but I also found new strength in telling the truth. This fight isn't just about clearing my name, it's about exposing a system that needs to change for the sake of patients, doctors, and everyone caught in between. And while the road ahead is uncertain, I'm ready to walk it, one step at a time. As I started to speak out, I realized how many others were afraid to do the same. They worried about losing their jobs, their licenses, their careers. The fear was real and powerful, and it kept so many voices silent. But every story shared, every truth told, chipped away at the wall of silence. Slowly, I found allies, people who believed me, who wanted to see change. Together, we began to push back against the system that protected itself at the expense of others. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, threats, and moments when I wanted to give up. But the more I spoke, the more I understood how important this fight was. Not just for me, but for everyone who might face the same fate. This journey is far from over, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm not alone. And that makes all the difference. I still don't know what the future holds. There are days when the weight of everything feels unbearable, but I've learned that silence isn't the answer. Speaking up even when it's hard is the only way forward. I want people to understand what really happens behind hospital doors, the mistakes, the cover-ups, and the people who get caught in the middle. I want young doctors to know they don't have to be alone, that it's okay to question and to stand up. This isn't just my story, it's a call for change, for honesty, for accountability, for a system that protects patients without destroying those who care for them. I don't have all the answers, but I'm still here, still fighting, and I hope by sharing this, I can help others find their voice too. This is the end of my story. Thank you for watching, and if you like this kind of content, kindly leave us a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thank you.